Okay, so unfortunately, the recording for this session did not work, so I'm going to record this session again, or for the first time actually, and what I'm going to be doing is just going through the presentation that I just completed for those who were on the live call. So this is week 3 for 521. This is the agenda for the session. We're going to review week 2. We're going to look at research, presentations, the assignment for this week, and we're not going to take any questions because I'm the only one on the phone. Okay, so last week I shared that we had 55 postings on Monday. We went down to 45, but it's still too many. We need to get postings done earlier in the week, and here's why. If you post earlier in the week, you're more likely to earn all the participation points. Those who post earlier tend to achieve higher grades on assignments. They tend to be more likely to submit assignments on time. They're less stressed getting the work done, and they have time to turn their U, which means that it is not a substantive post, into an S, which means you do get credit for it. If you participate early in the week, you tend to, as I just said, do better. Use citations and references, use the proper format. Your initial posting should be at least 250 words, and your follow-up posting should be at least 100 words. There are several video questions this week, and usually at least 1 or 2 each week, and the video cannot be your only source on video questions. I'd like to see you engaging with each other and not just responding to the initial questions. A good rule of thumb is to have 2 initial responses and 2 engagement postings or follow-ups, and then the other postings at your discretion. Only use acceptable sources. Here are unacceptable sources: blogs, Wikipedia, dictionaries, encyclopedias, sites selling services, and cheat sites. What I like to say is that if you wouldn't use the source as a basis for a raise or promotion, don't use it for class. If you don't think your boss would accept it, assume I won't either. U flags have been given out since the beginning of class, and they're usually given if you didn't meet the word count or you're not including a citation and a reference in your posting. I am not going to be giving any more emails to those who earn a U flag. If you see the U, make sure you fix it. Add word count, add citation and reference. Read my postings. Don't skip over my postings. This past week, I had somebody who agreed with somebody's posting, and I had already responded that it wasn't absolutely an accurate posting with information. And you might get some information that you can apply to assignments. My postings might also include some depth and detail, application and analysis, and information and insights into subjects. This past week, you had to do SMART goals. Increase profitability by 15% in the next fiscal year is SMART. It's measurable, it's specific, it's attainable, and it has a time element. Earn an MBA with a GPA of 3.5 by December 2019. Same thing, specific, it's measurable, 3.5. Achievable is a doable thing. Realistic by December 2019, and that's your time. Not SMART. Increase profitability by 15% in the next month. That is not achievable or realistic. Same thing with earn an MBA with a 4.0 in 1 year. If you're going to do it in 1 year, you're going to be doubling up, which makes it harder to earn a 4.0. And who of us is good in every single subject? I know I'm not. And so it is very difficult to earn a 4.0. This is a sort of a composite of what someone had done this week for their SMART goal. Said, higher education will bring what I want, where I want my career advancement. Career advancement is specific. Expanding my management skills, education, and experience is not measurable. Obtain an MBA is obtainable. Realistic promotions can be achieved by experience. That's a statement. That is not a goal. And finish an MBA by June or July of 2020 is certainly achievable. If I go back, you'll see that the SMART goals are just written as a statement. It doesn't have to be broken down into the elements of SMART. And make sure that each element really does reach what we're trying to do in that element. Read announcements and instructor messages, class messages. Read your feedback, not just the points. Keep track of your S flags and fix an S flag and look at word count, citation, and reference. How do you look at your S flags? You go to class home, which I highlighted. You then go to recent activities. You'll see that at the bottom. You'll then see it says by person and you pick your name. Then you can see there's a count. It's a count by day. This person, whose name I blacked out, has 2 S's, then 1 S, an S, or 2 S's and a U. That U would need to be fixed. So you go in to class messages. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Oops. You go into class home, recent activities by person, your name, and then you will see your count. You'll see how many S's you have each day. For your assignment for this week, make sure you read your return documents. Use relevant sources. Do not rely on company websites. They are biased sources, only providing good information. I was looking for some specific examples from the company, and in the SWOT analysis, I got a couple of people who just did a list, and some people had just one element in each element of the SWOT. In writing, avoid cliches, for instance, make or break, turning heads. Do not list a source as a reference if you didn't cite it. Match your references and citations. So if you have the author on the reference list, that's the same thing you put in the citation. Use your word count guidelines. This past week we had one that was 175 and 2 that were 350, and there were several people who didn't come anywhere near 350 on those 2 elements. Be clear, concise, comprehensive, and cogent. Concise and comprehensive are not mutually exclusive. Concise means that you write it in as few words as possible, and comprehensive means you cover every requirement. So what does it mean? Clear. You follow through on your thoughts, you're well organized. Concise, you make your points in as few words as possible. You don't keep adding phrases that aren't necessary or cliches. Cogent, it's based on evidence or sources, and comprehensive, you address all the requirements. It's a question I had a couple of questions this week on Tuesday as to why people didn't have their feedback yet. Faculty have 6 days to submit feedback. I'm pretty fast. I tend to get it out within 2 days. The good news about that is you get your feedback quickly. The bad news is I expect improvements and you will lose more points for repeat errors. And why didn't you get it on Tuesday? Well, it takes me about 15 minutes to read something that's good, 45 minutes to read something that's not so good, and 30 minutes is my average, which means that with 26 students, that's 13 hours of grading. It's impossible to get it out to you on the next day. Research. First thing you want to do for using the library is you click on the library tab, and then you go to University Library. Then you pick a database. You can pick ProQuest or BESCO Host. They're both good. I personally prefer a BESCO Host because it gives you an abstract. ProQuest only gives you the title of the article and the other reference information. So when I go into a BESCO Host, one of the topics for this week is culture. If I type in culture, I'm going to get a lot of articles. So I then go to an advanced search. An advanced search means that I can put in more elements. I put in culture, organization, and innovation. So the more specific you get, the better your research. Specific words get better articles. Culture, I got over 1 million articles. I am sure none of you want to read that many articles. If I use culture, organization, and innovation, I get down to about 8,000 plus articles. The company you're going to be looking at this week is called IDEO. And if I put organizational culture, innovation, and IDEO, I get down to 4. As I said, ProQuest includes reference, a BESCO Host reference, and abstract. So here's what it looks like on my page where I had the 8,000 plus. This was my advanced search. I highlighted the abstract. On the left-hand side, I highlighted full text, which is what you want. I did not highlight or check off scholarly or peer-reviewed articles because you do not need to use peer-reviewed articles in this class. You can use business journal articles. Some people like to use Google Scholar. It's perfectly acceptable. You type in scholar.google.com. I then typed in organizational culture. I clicked only articles because that's all you want to look at. I get to the page and I want to pick a date. I don't want to use really old articles. I want to use up-to-date articles. Peer-reviewed articles are by experts in the field. It takes reviewers, excuse me, about a year from writing an article to getting it approved. They tend to be based on empirical research, which is harder to read, and the articles are longer. And I am telling you, it's okay to just use business journal articles. Fortune, Forbes, Fast Company, Harvard Business Review, Inc., Wall Street Journal. Business journals, are easy to read. They're more up to date. They're going to help you more with your papers. They're accessible through the UOP library and through the journal websites. Okay, now I'm going to be going over what you need to do for your slide presentation assignment this week. So I'm going to sort of be doing a presentation within a presentation. This is a title slide, which is a required slide. Your notes are, to you, are in red. First note is use a template. I am going to hit escape here for a second. Oops, that didn't work. All right, so this is one way to start a presentation. This is an introduction. A study finds that 96% of executives experience some anxiety about public speaking, and fear of public speaking can interfere with advancement. You can see I have a citation on the slide. The other thing that you can do is down here at the bottom. I have the same citation, and this is a note page. And so you can also put it in a note page. It doesn't have to be on the slide. Up to you. Either one is acceptable. Agenda. You can use an agenda or an introduction. An agenda says what you're going to be covering. A couple of things I want to point out to you on this page. First of all is the light background, which tends to work much better for most slide presentations, but use a Microsoft Office template. The other thing I want to point out here is the use of first word consistency, planning, creating, using, avoiding, ending. I don't need to do every slide with all ing words, but whatever I start the slide with, I want to finish the slide with. And slides are written in brief bullets. You don't need to use the words the, a, an, or that. I didn't use creating the content or ending the presentation. It's not necessary on slides. Neither are periods. Most effective slides use a combination of illustrations and text. If you do all text, it's boring. If you do all illustrations, people find it harder to follow. So use the combination. Use an intro or an agenda. The agenda is what's going to be covered. An intro can be a quote, as I used. It can be a question to the audience, a fact about the topic, or a brief video. And do keep it brief and keep it on topic. It should be no more than 90 seconds. Planning. You can see I've done all of these with verbs: establish, organize, prepare, estimate. Do not go below 20-point font on text. It's okay for graphs, but don't do it for text. The introduction. You can arouse interest, build credibility, preview main points. What I'm pointing out on this slide is the sub-bullets. The sub-bullets are indented. If you're going to use one, use at least two. It's like outlining. If there's a 1, there's a 2, there's an A, there's a B. You want to avoid clip art. It is not the best thing to use. I've used it here, and this could be considered a transition slide. When you're preparing your presentation, you want to connect the ideas, make sure it all makes sense, and limit your number of key points. The note on this slide is the rule of 6. The rule of 6 says you use 6 lines per slide and 6 words per line. You can see here that I have 5 bullet points, so that's within my 6 lines, and 3 is the most number of words I have on any one of my lines. And you can see again, first word consistency, connect, use, maintain, limit, and address. Make sure you relate to the audience needs. Use clear and vivid language. If you're talking about something that's unknown, make sure you connect it to things people would understand. And you can see here, my note to you is that the citation comes right after one line, which means that my citation is just for that particular line. It's not what you tell them, it's what they hear. People don't always remember everything in a presentation. That's one of the reasons why you want to use slides. Use a dark color for your font. I use red as a highlight color. Use color effectively. I already mentioned that you don't need periods after your bullets. A little bit more on rule of 6, 6 words per line, 6 lines per slide, 1 idea per slides. Key point, slides are not a paper in PowerPoint. Do not write a paper in your slides. Write as brief bullets. Sentences and paragraphs are not used on slides. You use bullets. Keep it simple. Use your slides for main ideas. Make sure they're visible. Avoid unnecessary clip art animation. Animation can make it longer to download. And use a sans serif font. There's no font called sans serif. Examples are Comic Sans, which is what this is, Arial, Tahoma, Verdana. Times New Roman is a serif font. Great for papers, bad for slides. Why? Because it uses more squiggly lines rather than straight lines, and it is a thinner font. So let's take a look at it. Here you have sans serif and serif fonts. Hopefully you can see how much easier it is and how much thicker the lines are on Comic Sans than Times New Roman, and you can see the lack of the squiggly lines. And so I've compared a few sans serif to serif fonts. Use sans serif. Capitalize only the first word. Lots of people like to capitalize every word on the bullet. Capitalize only the first word. Use photos, logos, and charts rather than clip art. Find a template that you like. Keep your slides simple and easy to read, and avoid all caps. If you take a second to look at this, it looks like it doesn't make sense, but it says according to research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter what order the letters are in a word. I just didn't read that right. The only important thing is that the first and last letters be in the right place. The rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without a problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. This doesn't happen if you put it in all caps. People can read upper and lower case much more easily than all caps, and that is the reason why you don't write slides in all caps. Basically, your slides are showing ideas, not just showing slides. Clip art, avoid it, don't overuse it. Use it on non-content slides if you need to use it. And this little picture down here is all clip art. Good presenters are storytellers. Excuse me, the more you can tell a story, the more people are going to remember it. Major fears: ghosts, clowns, darkness, zombies, strangers, flying, claustrophobia, blood, needles, drowning, bugs, snakes, heights, public speaking. Lots of people say that they would rather have a root canal than have to do a speech. I've had 3 root canals. I'll do a speech. Jerry Seinfeld says that since more people fear public speaking than fear death, that if you were at a funeral, it means you would rather be in the casket than doing the eulogy. How do you get away? How do you avoid anxiety? You practice, practice, practice. You write out the presentation in bullets. You do not write a script because you will read it, and reading is not good. And you don't tell jokes, but you can use humor. I love children's books. Be the little engine that could. I think I can, I think I can, I know I can. And avoid being Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Practice power poses. We have Wonder Woman and the touchdown poses, or the winner pose. These are great ways to get yourself psyched up to do a presentation and to do a better job. Great quote from Henry Ford: whether you think you can or think you can't, you're usually right. Prepare for the unexpected. You don't know if you're going to have to stop or can't stop. Best practices. Use your required slides. Here's the list of them. The deepest sin is believing without evidence. This is why you need to have research. And the biggest problem in communications is the illusion it's taken place. And that's why it's important to learn how to communicate. Required slides. Follow your slide guidelines. Avoid sentences, paragraphs. Follow the rule of 6. Use first word consistency. Capitalize only the first word. Avoid all caps. Provide enough information to help you present. Reminders. Summarize key point. State actions as verbs. End on a positive note and ask for questions. Here's a summary. It's easy to do presentations if you plan, prepare, practice, and perform. If you're clear, compelling, captivating, and confident. The content for your presentation: address all requirements, analyze rather than report, share insights, make recommendations, and use appropriate sources. Presentation: add detailed voiceover or speaker notes. Follow the slide guidelines, include the required slides. Do not just read or repeat bullets, speak beyond the bullets, and do not read a script. This is your actual assignment. Discuss the IDEO culture. Address the techniques used to embed culture. Identify the culture at your organization. Recommend whether you think IDEO's culture would work or it wouldn't work at your organization and explain why. And determine what your organization might need to do to change their culture. Follow the slide guidelines, include the required slides, have a balance of graphics and text. Use your textbook plus at least one business journal article, and add voiceover or speaker notes. How do you add voiceover? You are in the create mode of your slides. You go to insert, and then over to this, all the way to the right, I've highlighted what looks like a speaker. You click on that, and you do your voiceover for each slide. Avoid animation, fly-ins. Use high quality, not clip art. Illustrations, check audio before submission, and don't write in sentences or paragraphs. Great quote from Jack Welch about the importance of presentation skills. And think about what you still need to know to do a presentation, and put the question in the live session question area. Summary, you want to wrap it up. You could use a new quote or a question. Love this quote: nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. And then a question slide can just, quite frankly, be a question. And there are my references.